You have been completely lied to about urban survival. When the grid finally collapses and panic floods the streets, 99% of people will make a catastrophic and lethal mistake. They will frantically pack their bags and flee blindly into the unforgiving wilderness. But Arthur, a 58-year-old retired structural engineer, knows a shocking secret that most self-proclaimed survivalists completely ignore. When the world effectively ended, Arthur did not run to the forest to freeze and starve. He calmly walked through the glass doors of the Pinnacle Hotel in downtown Seattle. Nobody builds a towering hotel thinking about the apocalypse. Hotels are specifically designed to keep large numbers of clueless strangers comfortable, safe, and alive overnight in a totally unfamiliar location. They expect absolutely zero self-sufficiency from anyone sleeping inside. If you read that sentence back slowly in your mind, you will realize you just described the exact set of terrifying problems that a post-collapse shelter needs to solve. You suddenly have large numbers of panicked people. You face unfamiliar, deadly, and chaotic conditions outside. There are zero pre-existing survival skills among the desperate occupants. Everything must be provided by the building itself. Hotels were never meant to be survival infrastructure. But the strict engineering requirements of modern hospitality and the tactical engineering requirements of a doomsday bunker overlap so heavily that a hotel is, by pure accident, the most collapse-ready structure in any modern city. The mental category of a luxury hotel simply does not connect to the mental category of gritty survival in a normal person's brain. But today on Primal Methods, we are going to shatter that dangerous illusion. Here are the hidden survival pillars that hotels were built to do, which accidentally make them the perfect, impenetrable collapse shelter. Once you see this undeniable truth, you will never look at a towering hotel the same way ever again. First, we must talk about the most critical and scarce survival asset, which is clean water. Hotels were engineered to store enormous, almost unbelievable quantities of water hidden inside the structure itself. A standard residential home might have one small water heater in the basement. A hotel operates a massive commercial water heating system with heavy-duty storage tanks holding anywhere from 500 to 5,000 gallons, depending on the property size. This is because the massive building needs to provide scalding hot water to dozens or hundreds of rooms simultaneously every single morning. That vital water is sitting securely in pressurized tanks in the reinforced mechanical room right now. When the power grid violently dies and municipal water pressure drops to an absolute zero, those massive tanks still safely contain every single gallon that was inside them at the exact moment the system stopped. But the central system is just the beginning of this hidden oasis. Every single room in the hotel has precious water permanently trapped in the heavy pipes between the central tank and the bathroom fixtures. Life-saving water is waiting patiently in the copper supply lines. It is safely stored in the heavy porcelain toilet tanks. It sits perfectly preserved in the small section of pipe between the wall shut-off valve and the sink faucet. A 100-room hotel has roughly 100 toilet tanks, holding at least 1.6 gallons each, plus the massive amount of residual pipe water. That liquid gold adds up incredibly fast across that many individual rooms. Combined with the central storage tanks, a mid-sized hotel can contain 2,000 to 8,000 gallons of fresh water inside the building on the very day the grid fails. This absolute lifesaver is accessible without needing any external water source, any electric pumping mechanism, or any complicated rainwater collection system. You simply walk in, open the taps, and drain the tanks to survive. That massive volume of pristine water, strictly rationed at 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and basic sanitation, can easily sustain a frightened group of 20 people for 3 to 12 agonizing months. This is a proven fact based on emergency management guidelines from disaster relief experts. And that stunning reality is true before you have collected a single drop of rainwater or filtered a single gallon from a contaminated outside source. The hotel literally solved your deadliest problem before you even walked through the lobby doors. Second, we must look at the invisible shield protecting you, which is extreme fireproof engineering. Hotels were strictly built to be absolutely fireproof. I do not mean somewhat fire-resistant or lightly fire-retardant. I mean brutally fireproof to a degree that almost no other civilian building type can ever hope to match. This is because commercial fire codes for hotels are among the strictest and most punishing in the entire global building industry. These rigid regulations were driven by the catastrophic and deadly hotel fires of the mid-20th century. Those horrific tragedies killed hundreds of innocent people and led to strict modern regulations designed to prevent it from ever happening again. Now, hotels must be heavily engineered to effectively contain and survive raging infernos in ways that fragile residential houses and normal office buildings simply are not. The dividing walls between hotel rooms are typically built from solid concrete block or a double layer of specialized fire-rated drywall. They are specifically designed to aggressively prevent a lethal fire from spreading between rooms for a guaranteed minimum of 1 to 2 full hours. The long, quiet corridors have heavy metal fire doors that will close automatically to instantly cut off oxygen to the flames. The emergency stairwells are entirely enclosed in thick concrete or solid masonry that acts as a secure, fireproof escape shaft. The main structural frame in any hotel built after the 1970s is made entirely of heavy steel and concrete rather than highly flammable wood. This means the building itself simply does not burn. Only the furniture and loose contents inside the rooms will ever catch fire. This highly advanced compartmentalized room design strictly limits any sudden fire only to the single room where it actually starts. In a dark, post-collapse world, you will be cooking with dangerous open flames, heating your body with indoor combustion, and living in a structure packed with highly flammable scavenged materials. The fireproof compartmentalization of a grand hotel means that a deadly, careless cooking accident in room 214 does not spread and blindly destroy room 216. A terrifying fire in one section of the large building will literally burn its own fuel out inside the concrete box of a single room. It will do this completely on its own, without ever threatening the rest of the massive structure or the innocent people sleeping quietly inside it. Compare this absolute fireproof fortress to a standard suburban residential house, where a simple kitchen grease fire can easily engulf the entire structure in a matter of terrifying minutes. Think about a modern office building with wide-open floor plans, where a hungry fire moves laterally and destroys everything without any physical resistance whatsoever. The hotel's brilliant room-by-room containment design is a life-saving tactical advantage that you desperately need. It would cost millions of dollars to engineer this kind of safety from scratch, and the hotel accidentally provides it to you for absolutely free. Third, we must analyze the redundant entry control and natural defensive geometry that saved Arthur from the chaos outside. A modern hotel like the Pinnacle is heavily designed so that every single person entering the building passes through one primary main entrance. They must step into a wide-open lobby and then route through long and highly visible corridors to reach their individual rooms. Every single one of those rooms features a reinforced door equipped with a heavy-duty commercial-grade lock. This was never originally intended to be a military defensive design. It is simply a hospitality workflow specifically designed to funnel paying guests directly past the front desk for check-in. But the tactical and life-saving effect during a violent collapse is completely identical to a fortified military layout. Arthur knew immediately that he had one primary entry point that could be easily monitored and strictly controlled. That entrance perfectly feeds into long and straight corridors that create incredibly linear fields of view. Any approaching movement from a hostile threat is clearly visible from a massive distance. These quiet hallways lead directly to individual concrete compartments that can be independently secured and aggressively defended. The heavy doors on hotel rooms are significantly stronger and thicker than standard residential doors. They are typically built from solid core wood or clad in thick protective metal. They hang on heavy-duty commercial-grade hinges and feature massive steel deadbolts. Most importantly, these heavy doors open inward into the room. This crucial detail means that a heavy barricade placed firmly against the inside of the door actually works perfectly with the structural design rather than against it. The small glass peepholes installed in every single door provide critical observation of the dark hallway without ever exposing your physical body to danger. This brilliant corridor layout means that reaching any individual room absolutely requires a desperate threat to pass through a dangerous series of fatal choke points. They must cross the open lobby and navigate the exposed hallway before blindly climbing the enclosed stairwells. Each of these critical choke points can be easily monitored or completely blocked with heavy furniture. A small and frightened group occupying a single elevated floor of the Pinnacle Hotel can easily lock down the heavy stairwell doors at their specific level. They can permanently block the empty elevator shafts to cut off all mechanical access from below. This creates an impenetrable defended zone where every single hostile approach is completely visible and loudly audible long before anyone ever reaches a bedroom door. That is a brilliant defensive geometry that top military planners would recognize and applaud immediately. The hotel architects accidentally built this tactical fortress into the floor plan purely for the mundane purpose of basic guest management. Fourth, you must understand the massive and life-saving power of hidden linen and textile reserves. When Arthur finally broke into the housekeeping department on the 4th floor, he did not just find 10 clean towels. He discovered thousands of pristine sheets and thick, warm blankets waiting silently in the dark. He found mountains of bath towels and heavy cotton bathrobes. There were durable shower curtains and thick mattress pads and thousands of fresh cleaning rags. All of these vital supplies are permanently stored in massive industrial quantities right inside the building. They are usually located in a dedicated locked supply room on every single floor or hidden down in a giant central laundry facility in the cold basement. In a brutal post-collapse reality, textiles are a critical survival resource that violently depletes faster than almost anything else you can imagine. Everyday fabric quickly wears out and gets heavily contaminated with dirt and blood before being desperately used for emergency bandages. It gets repurposed to insulate freezing windows and simply cannot be manufactured ever again without massive industrial equipment. A single hotel textile reserve contains more than enough raw material to provide warm bedding and critical winter insulation for a small army. It provides endless clean bandaging and vital water filtration pre-filters, and incredibly strong cordage when violently torn into long strips. You can easily create heavy window blackout material to hide your nighttime fires from desperate looters roaming outside. You have instant access to thick smoke filtration masks and clean baby diapers and essential sanitary supplies. You can rapidly create heavy cold weather layering for a frightened group of 20 to 50 freezing people for many long months or even years. The simple white cotton sheets alone are a major and game-changing survival resource. A standard hotel flat sheet is a massive rectangle of tightly woven and high-quality cotton. It can be quickly cut and violently torn and carefully folded to serve dozens of critical survival applications. When torn into tight strips, a single white sheet produces 30 to 50 feet of incredibly strong fabric cordage. This makeshift rope is easily strong enough for heavy lashing and building shelters and binding heavy materials together. Carefully folded and layered sheets instantly become sterile wound dressings and supportive arm slings and life-saving compression bandages. When firmly hung in open doorways, they create instant privacy barriers and provide critical indoor airflow control. If you soak them in cool water and drape them over a simple frame, they magically become highly effective evaporative cooling systems during deadly hot summer weather. The sheer volume of raw textile material sitting completely unused in a dark hotel housekeeping closet would cost many thousands of dollars to purchase today. It would be absolutely impossible to scavenge this massive quantity of clean fabric from destroyed residential buildings. Fifth, we must explore the unbelievable treasure hidden inside the commercial kitchen. Hotels were built with massive culinary facilities, designed specifically to feed hundreds of hungry people using heavy institutional scale equipment. Even a modest and cheap hotel with a simple morning breakfast buffet operates a highly functional commercial kitchen. Arthur found massive stainless steel prep surfaces and heavy industrial-grade cookware waiting silently in the shadows. He opened giant walk-in coolers and massive freezers that securely contain whatever fresh food was stored inside them the exact moment the city power violently died. He found hidden dry storage rooms absolutely packed to the ceiling with bulk survival staples like heavy sacks of white flour and white rice. There were endless gallons of cooking oil and hundreds of heavy canned goods and massive containers of rare spices. He also found a professional dishwashing and high-temperature sanitation system that includes industrial quantities of lethal cleaning chemicals. A full-service luxury hotel like the Pinnacle multiplies this massive food cache by a factor of 5 or more. The dark and insulated walk-in cooler alone in a fancy hotel restaurant kitchen might quietly contain hundreds of pounds of highly perishable food. While that raw meat and fresh dairy will certainly not last forever without active refrigeration, it represents an enormous caloric windfall. It provides a massive feast in the first 48 to 72 terrifying hours of a global blackout. That is only true if you have the skills to quickly cook and eagerly consume or carefully preserve it with salt before it rapidly spoils. The locked dry storage room is the ultimate long-term survival prize that every serious prepper dreams about. It holds hundreds of pounds of bulk rice and dried yellow pasta and heavily preserved canned vegetables. These precious calories can be safely stored for many long months or even years without any electricity whatsoever. They exist in massive quantities, perfectly calibrated to feed hundreds of demanding hotel guests for several consecutive weeks. But looking far beyond the food itself, the heavy kitchen infrastructure is a permanent and life-altering asset. The commercial gas stoves often connect directly to massive buried propane tanks outside that will easily outlast the dead electrical grid by many long weeks. The heavy stainless steel prep surfaces will never harbor deadly microscopic bacteria, the dangerous way that residential wood counters do. The giant industrial pots and deep pans are specifically sized for massive group cooking, rather than tiny and inefficient individual meals. The heavy metal kitchen ventilation hood provides a brilliant built-in exhaust system for thick cooking smoke if it properly vents all the way up to the high roof. This is a critical survival feature that normal residential buildings and luxury apartments completely lack. A quiet hotel kitchen is essentially a massive group feeding facility that is already completely built and fully stocked. It is perfectly designed for the exact scale of post-collapse food preparation that your fragile new community desperately needs to avoid starvation. Sixth, we must uncover the sleeping mechanical giant that can bring light back to a dark and terrifying world. Hotels were strictly built with massive backup power systems that magically function completely independent of the dead municipal grid. Strict fire codes absolutely require modern hotels like the Pinnacle to maintain heavy-duty emergency generators. These incredible machines are specifically designed to power exit lighting, massive elevator recall systems, and critical emergency alarms. They are guaranteed to run for a minimum duration of several tense hours or even several chaotic days. But larger luxury properties often hide giant diesel generators perfectly sized to run the entire massive building for extended periods. Arthur knew exactly where to look to find the heavy diesel tanks holding hundreds or even thousands of gallons of precious fuel. Even long after that initial generator fuel completely runs out, the massive generator itself remains a fully functioning diesel engine. It is already permanently connected to a heavy-duty electrical distribution system perfectly wired into the deep concrete bones of the building. If you are smart enough to scavenge alternative fuels like waste vegetable oil from the dark kitchen or abandoned biodiesel from dead vehicles outside, you possess absolute power. You can confidently restart that sleeping generator and push glorious electrical power through a building that is already professionally wired to handle it. You can instantly power life-saving lights, heavy refrigeration units, high-pressure water pumps, and essential communication equipment. You can even run fragile medical devices without risking any of the dangerous improvised wiring that would instantly burn down a normal residential structure. The massive electrical panel inside the hotel is perfectly labeled, and every single circuit is beautifully mapped out for you. This commercial distribution system is aggressively designed for continuous high-load use. It can easily handle massive electricity demands that would violently trip standard residential breakers in a split second. You are not desperately building a fragile electrical system from scratch in the dark. You are simply restarting a professional-grade system that was heavily inspected, perfectly maintained, and designed to be safely operated by normal maintenance staff. Seventh, and perhaps the most mind-blowing secret of all, hotels were brilliantly built to secretly manage the chaotic psychology of terrified strangers. In a terrifying post-collapse world, you will be trapped with panicked people who do not know each other, do not trust each other, and desperately need to coexist in very close proximity without turning violent. This is exactly the deadliest social engineering problem that every single collapsed community faces. It is the exact same reason why most desperate survivor groups ultimately slaughter each other and completely fail. The brilliant physical layout of a grand hotel embeds an invisible social management system directly into the concrete architecture itself. It does this in ways that are so incredibly subtle that normal people never even notice they are being actively controlled. Every single frightened person is instantly granted a private and secure room they can retreat to and lock heavily behind them. This single feature completely solves the deep psychological need for personal space and physical security. The terrifying loss of that specific privacy is what drives 99% of brutal interpersonal conflict in group survival situations. The wide corridors and the massive open lobby create beautiful shared common spaces. This allows necessary human interaction to happen completely voluntarily rather than being forced by sleeping 10 angry people in a single cramped room. The brilliant floor-by-floor organization creates natural and highly manageable subgroups. These groups are small enough to build vital internal trust while still remaining deeply connected to the larger survival community through shared facilities. Arthur quickly realized the abandoned front desk area naturally provides a perfect and highly defensible command and communications center. The large conference rooms gracefully provide safe meeting spaces for critical group decisions and tense survival negotiations. The wildly different room sizes, from standard rooms to massive luxury suites, allow a smart leader to allocate shelter perfectly based on actual family size. You can do all of this organizational magic without requiring a single hammer, nail, or structural modification. This invisible social architecture aggressively prevents the two biggest killers of group cohesion in a dark world. It violently stops the maddening loss of privacy and the terrifying absence of daily structure. If you cram 30 desperate and starving strangers into a high school gymnasium, they will violently fracture within 3 terrifying days. Interpersonal friction, constant sleep disruption, and the total absence of safe personal space will rapidly erode all human trust and necessary cooperation. But if you give those exact same 30 desperate people individual locked rooms along a shared hallway with a communal kitchen, everything changes. They will miraculously self-organize into a highly functioning and peaceful community within a single week. This happens simply because the brilliant hotel architecture provides the exact physical framework that a fragile social structure desperately needs to grow around. The towering hotel does not just physically shelter the terrified group from the freezing rain. It actually organizes their chaotic minds. That invisible organizational function is worth far more than the concrete walls and the heavy roof combined. Here is the breathtaking reality of what the Pinnacle Hotel looks like as a collapse shelter when Arthur gets all 7 magical features operating together. Your frightened group moves in and immediately controls thousands of gallons of pristine stored water safely hidden in the mechanical systems. They are completely protected by heavy fireproof and highly compartmentalized construction that easily contains deadly accidents. They confidently control all physical entry through a single highly defensible lobby backed by heavily reinforced room doors along linear corridors. They possess thousands of clean textiles for warm bedding, life-saving bandaging, and vital winter insulation. They command a massive commercial kitchen packed with bulk food storage and professional-grade cooking equipment perfectly ventilated to the roof. They own a sleeping generator loaded with diesel fuel and a pre-wired electrical distribution system just waiting to be awakened. And they deeply benefit from a brilliant physical layout that automatically sorts a chaotic group of panicked strangers into a fully functional and peaceful community. No other building type in any modern city provides all 7 of these incredible features in a single unified structure. A normal suburban house gives you basic shelter, but completely lacks the necessary scale to survive long-term. A towering office building gives you massive open space, but provides absolutely zero water storage or commercial cooking kitchens. A giant industrial warehouse gives you endless volume, but offers zero life-saving compartmentalization or basic human privacy. A modern hospital gives you incredible medical infrastructure, but completely lacks livable and comfortable private rooms. A hotel gives you absolutely everything you need to survive and rebuild from the ashes. This is because a modern hotel was already silently solving the incredibly difficult problem of keeping large numbers of helpless strangers alive in a totally unfamiliar place. The architects and builders just did not know that they were exactly mimicking the brutal problems that a violent societal collapse creates. Now you finally know the truth. The next time you drive past a massive hotel sitting quietly on the side of the highway, you will finally see it for what it truly is. It is not just a bankrupt business or a simple place to comfortably sleep. It is an impenetrable survival fortress that is patiently waiting for someone smart enough to walk inside and turn the lights back on. Thank you for learning the absolute truth with Primal Methods. Do not let your family be left behind when the world goes dark. Hit that subscribe button right now to join our community of survivors and never miss another life-saving secret.